Alec Baldwin nearly fell asleep during the trial, as did we. This was not very eventful, but there was a moment that was very telling. Crew members saying he pulled the trigger. This isn't good, Alec. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We just spent, 8 hours? It's Kim is here. Christopher Melcher dropped in. If you missed our earlier breakdown of the opening statements, he gave us a lot of interesting insight. But Kim, so good to have you. Thank you for doing this with me today. Would you agree this was a little rough first day?
Yeah, at points it was rough. It was rough. But I mean, I guess we're trying to lay a foundation in this trial. We're trying to get an idea of the basic events that happened, and sometimes that's necessary. But my goodness, there were moments of this trial today that were great, and there were moments that were very boring. But we're here to bring you the best of it, so you don't have to sit through all the boring parts.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, the first one up was this officer. Wait, make sure you guys can see him. Oh, there we go. This was Nicholas Lafleur, was the first officer that came up, our first witness. We did go through the openings. We're going to go through a couple moments of the statements, but I want to go sort of through the witnesses, which you guys missed. There were 3 detectives that came forward, and then the 4th crime scene tech was what we got through today. But to me, the biggest reveal was during this Lafleur witnessing moment. I've pulled through and found several of the moments where they talked about pulling the trigger. Let's talk about this. This was footage that was now extended footage that was released from the body cam of Lafleur.
Reed, yes, sir. Okay, who else? Reed Russell was here. Alec Baldwin was the actor on set that pulled the trigger. Alec Baldwin? Yes, sir. Where's he at?
So this is a crew member in orange. As you can see, that's who, someone involved in the production. Unclear who this was, but basically announces Alec Baldwin was the one who pulled the trigger. Now, this is what the officer heard, and it continued.
You want to pull the trigger? Do you want me to have him sit tight, or?
Yeah, you're going to have to sit tight.
Sit tight in the unit?
I have the armor in here. This is all their stuff. I have the...
So this is Lafleur now referring to Alec as the one who pulled the trigger. This is a key thing because this is what's in dispute. Did he pull the trigger?
Hanging out with him because, yeah, he's the one who pulled the trigger. Okay, yeah, he sorry.
I'm hanging with him because he's the one who's pulled the trigger. This is what the officers have been saying based on what they've heard from the crew, right? This is what's in dispute, but this is important to sort of see as all this played out here. Again.
At any point in time, did Mr. Baldwin tell you that he didn't pull the trigger of the gun?
Did he ever at any point say he didn't pull the trigger?
I believe he told me he was holding the gun. I believe in the beginning when I was leaving the church, one of the guys said that Baldwin had pulled the trigger. So just off of what was told.
Now, this officer, sorry for the disrespect, sir, but Kim, this officer clearly wasn't doing his best job. Is that safe to say? There were moments where he was explaining that he was going around telling everybody not to talk to each other, which is important, right? Because it can sort of taint the way stories are told or the way memories can be formed. And one of the biggest people involved in this whole thing is the first AD, Halls, right there in the blue. Kim, you can elaborate why this is a big deal, but here we had Fleur's body cam showing that they were seemingly shaking hands, talking to each other on set. Kim, how does this look to you as someone who knows how responsible Halls was? Does this look sketchy to you as well?
It definitely looks really sketchy. It never should have happened. They should not have been conversing. And it is concerning. Normally you would have these witnesses separated in a lot of situations, is my understanding. But clearly that did not happen even at the direction of the police officer. So Dave Halls did take a deal. He was given 6 months, I believe, unsupervised probation, if I'm remembering that correctly. So, he was negligent on set, and he did testify in Hannah's trial as well. And I guess we may see him in this one. I don't know. But it is concerning to see the two of them speaking at a point where they should not have been.
Well, the officer acknowledges this too, right? Because as we listen to this here.
Looks like he picks up his hand. Now that you play it back, it looks like he's shaking his hand.
And had you seen him do that previously?
No, not until just now.
I thought you testified earlier about a shake test.
The gentleman was talking about a shake test.
Okay.
But
Now, Halls was saying, "Oh, I did the shake test." Of course, he's saying that after this tragedy happened. But the question is, did he really?
I've not seen the director do it until reviewing the footage now.
Okay.
My eyes aren't always exactly where the body cam's pointed, so.
Absolutely.
But he went and talked about how he was instructed to separate Baldwin and everybody else so they weren't talking.
When you tell people not to talk about the incident, do you have an expectation that they'll follow your instructions?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it look like they're following your instructions?
No, ma'am.
No, and he sort of clearly is frustrated because he should have made sure they were all separated. But this was a big part for me, Kim, because it shows, I don't know, just people potentially colliding on what, collabing on what the story is. Let's all get our story straight is what this could potentially be. And I don't even mean to get away with a crime, but just more of like liability and like, oh yeah, you didn't see. Again, you'd think, right? You'd think if you're holding the gun and you're specifically, like Alec is always saying he's doing, specifically not holding the trigger, right? And holding outside and being super careful, and the thing just goes off in your hand, you'd think that'd be the first thing you're telling everybody around as this is going on. Oh my God, how did that happen? I don't understand. I had my finger was nowhere near the trigger. What just went off? There's just when you watch all of this footage, I don't know, for me, it's very damning because I get it. He might be in shock. There's a lot going on. But watching what's happening, it feels like a lot of these people were colluding to sort of get the story straight rather than actually react genuinely in the moment. You know what I mean, Kim? There's a little bit like, why wasn't he saying, in shock, oh my God, how did this gun go off? What the hell? What happened? Is she okay? None of that was really happening. Instead, we see them whispering. What were your thoughts?
I think it's definitely what you're saying. It is a theory. I think it is a fair theory to have. And I try not to judge people too harshly after something really traumatic has happened because people act differently. Everybody reacts to traumatic situations in a different manner, but this should not have been happening. And it's a little bit concerning seeing them doing things that the cops told them not to do. It's clearly a problem.
Yeah, now so that's where we stand on. That was the biggest takeaway for me is what we're constantly trying to do that and of course Alec Baldwin sneezing.
You driver's licenses,
what?
didn't you?
We were very bored, but at least we caught a sneeze. But there were several moments there where it did look like he was very frustrated, head in hand. Even Hilaria, his wife, at certain points, just you could tell. We were all feeling it though, so I can't completely react. But this was the feeling of today because what they decided to do today was have all these experts in, okay? And yeah, to be fair, the experts weren't that, helpful in proving that he pulled the trigger. That was what was frustrating to me. All of these experts clearly were setting the tone. They watched a lot of the body cam footage and set the tone for sort of what happened as these three officers came in. They showed the cart, which, my God, Kim, what a mess. Yeah, go ahead. You were going to add to it.
Just such a messy cart. And a lot of this felt like what we were talking about today was a lot of what Hannah was responsible for, the armor on set. A lot of this, all of the evidence that was submitted, so much of it had to do with Hannah. There was very little that was pointing to specifically what Alec's responsibility was, which I was surprised going through the first full day that we really didn't see a lot of that. And to me, that is concerning on behalf of the prosecution, because again, we're dealing with reasonable doubt. And if you're not giving enough reason to be like, this is Alec's fault, it's very easy to have doubt. So I do have concerns with the way that it's going, because it's a bit strange to me.
I want to pull this clip because we talked about it in the opening, but I wanted you to see it for yourself, where they're just trying to downplay the importance of the safety on a set. Listen,
protocols wasn't followed, or there was a set safety issue about something unrelated to this, like these movie guidelines on a set, or the things of Navy SEALs and NASA. The guidelines were followed.
No, they weren't, and they should be treated that way too.
They followed the safety guidelines. Actors don't check the weapons. Safety is ensured by dedicated personnel.
This is where it all comes down. So he's trying to skirt the blame and play himself as a actor. He's just an actor. This was the thing that they were putting out throughout the whole trial.
You could picture Alec Baldwin in a pale state, very unsure of himself. You could say an actor out of character. Fair?
Again, this is Alex Spyro. What did we decide it was? Spyro.
Spyro. It's Spyro.
Spyro, like the video game. He's constantly trying to set the narrative to this jury that he's just an actor, guys. He didn't know better because, again, the defense won in that they don't get to now say he was also the producer, which is mind-bogglingly frustrating. As someone here, as a host of your show, I promise you, I'm a host and producer always at the same time. You can absolutely do both. In fact, the producing sometimes affects the hosting or acting even more because if there's money involved, if you're in charge of the revenue, yeah, you have certain ways to cut corners or make sure you do things better. You make those creative choices, and Alec was top of the call sheet. So of course he had power and control. So as a producer, he wasn't just some schlub on the producer line. No, he had actual stakes in the game. So what was your reaction to see that his big defense is playing like, well, I'm just an actor? Does that upset you? Do you think it's going to win? What do you think?
I do disagree with the choice that the judge has made in this regard. I don't think that it was the right one. However, it is the choice that has been made, and I think it is a big win for him because the defense of it wasn't necessarily my job to do all the checks and everything is on the table. However, there are basic gun safety protocols that were not followed, and I do believe Dave Halls has admitted that his check was not proper. So I think there's a lot of questions, and we're going to find out.
He's an
more as time
outlaw.
goes on.
Yeah, no, sorry, I wasn't going to interrupt you, but yeah, come on, Kim.
Yeah.
This is why you can get away with it because
He's an outlaw running for his life, who in the incident in question, he's pulling a 6-shooter to try to defend himself. That's why the gun has to be safe before it gets into the actor's hands. His mind is somewhere else, in the being of another, a century away, an outlaw. He's an outlaw.
I mean, this isn't untrue. You know what I mean? It is a smart attempt, but as Christopher said, will this jury really understand or care about all this? And really, can Alec not process that he's holding a weapon that should be checked with his own eyes? I think all actors are now going to change the protocol and then show me that thing before you hand it to me, right? And what I'm still waiting for, and we didn't really get the sense of yet, who handed him the gun, who was responsible, all that stuff's important to me in sort of the mindset of Alec, even as an actor, of what responsibility did he bear? Do you know what I mean? Because that's ultimately what this is about, was this foreseeable? That's the quote here.
Why there was a live bullet on set, why the armorer placed it in the gun, and of course, why the head of safety failed to detect it. None of it speaks to whether Alec knew or should have known those things. He didn't. No one on that set did. It was not foreseeable. You will hear that word from the witnesses and from eventually the instructions. Foreseeable. This was anything other than foreseeable. And they must prove beyond any and all reasonable doubt that this was foreseeable. Total indifference to human life, that death might occur. He's an actor. He's an actor.
Kim, is he an actor? Pause for effect. Is he an actor?
Is he?
Is he
an actor? That's the question. Actor. It was just the whole thing just seems ridiculous to me, but that is the choice that the judge has made. So that's where we are.
And then I want
to
play one last thing. Here it is, the most important to hear both sides of the argument. Here is where they disagree with that. And they bring their point of the reckless disregard, which to me is a very valid point. Hopefully this will load. Trying one more time. Apologies, guys.
The defendant didn't do a gun safety check with that inexperienced armorer. He pointed the gun at another human being, caught the hammer, and pulled that trigger. In reckless disregard for Ms. Hutchins' safety. And you will be convinced that the only true and just verdict in this case, so that true justice can be served, is a verdict of guilty to involuntary manslaughter. Thank you. The defendant,
Spiro there was definitely eyeing up how the jury was reacting to that because this is what it's down to, right? The reckless disregard, was it foreseeable? This is what we're basically going for. And I got to say, we didn't get a lot of that today. I hope we'll get it tomorrow, the next few days. This is a short trial, so we'll see. But there was a lot of filler and buildup that I don't think the jurors really probably liked. Do you agree? I feel like get to the point. If we don't get to the point soon from the prosecution, I think they're really going to be struggling here. Final thoughts, Kim. What do you think from the takeaway?
I think today, I don't think it really did a lot for the prosecution or the defense ultimately. And if it's not doing a lot for the prosecution, then it is doing more for the defense. So I hope to see a bit more tomorrow, really narrowing down why Alec is responsible in the eyes of the prosecution. I think that's going to be incredibly important moving forward. But I guess time will tell, and they're going to have to really do this quickly. So we'll see. We'll see.
Stephen Baldwin was also there for a while. That was the other sort of takeaway. His family, I think that's his sister, that's what I've deduced, and his wife. They've been there pretty consistently throughout the day with support. He seemed very grumpy and frustrated, but I can't really fault him for that. But I have seen a lot of feedback saying that the jury's not going to like how he looks. I don't know. He's on trial for murder, for homicide. It's a serious charge. I can understand. I feel like he kept
manslaughter. But
manslaughter. Thank you. It's a lot to grapple with. It's a loss of a life. I don't believe in a second he did it on purpose. So there's a lot to process here. So I don't think any of his reactions were that outlandish. So overall, we will see. Tomorrow we'll be back with another episode, so I hope you guys will be here. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for alerts. Join us on this journey to New Mexico. We'll have Christopher Melcher back. Smash the like button, leave your comments, share the video, will you please? Or just hit a like. Make sure you also go support our co-host here. It's Kim producing this with me. She's been crushing it, so go support It's Kim on YouTube. You can also support her on our link tree. Our link trees are posted everywhere, guys. Go support your creators, especially when they're streaming 8 hours a day for you. It's something else. So keep it coming. Keep your support. Thanks to everybody who watched, all you OG PPs who made it to the end. Tell me in the comments down below. We're going to go rest so we can do it all again tomorrow. We will see you guys then. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Brandon. Lean to everybody else in the back who were helping. You guys are the best, and we'll see you next time for our Rust recaps.
Bye.